Oh wow, no. Okay, I was gonna say no menus or nothing. What? Okay. All right. Hold on, let me turn this down a little bit. Can you guys switch me over to 80 days? Whoever has editor privileges. This is the game that Portal Guy ID chose for me to play for winning the subscriber raffle for the month of June, or was it March or May? It might still be loud, isn't it? I'm sure it's loud. Let me turn it down some more. It's pretty loud for me, so there we go. That might be better. So hopefully you can hear me now. If I need to turn it down a little more, just let me know. But this is the game Portal Guy wanted me to play by winning the subscriber raffle, and I actually have the subscriber raffle for the month of June going right now in the Discord. So if you're subscribed to the channel, head on over to the subs only and enter. I'll be doing that raffle after I'm done streaming tonight, and you'll get to choose any game for me to stream on this channel by being a subscriber on the Twitch channel. A little more? Okay. Sounds good. I've got it down to 9, literally, on the volume thingy. Okay, I don't have no idea what this game's about at all. I don't even know if you can beat this game. I don't know. All I know is Dustin picked this for me, and here we go. Man, who was it that was talking about LA Noire the other day? Might have been yesterday. Someone was talking about LA Noire, and I've been thinking about it, and now I'm like, I would really like to play that. Jules Verne, okay. I know that guy. Oh, it was you, Amy. Okay. So we're starting in London. London. Click to begin. Okay, what are we doing? Is this going to turn into a first-person shooter? Is it a third-person shooter? What is it, like Civilization? What, Age of Empires? We are going around the world. Around the world, monsieur. Very good, monsieur. We shall circumnavigate. Basically, this game is about traveling the world in 80 days. It's basically the journey you can take. It's text-based. Oh. You're not in the sub tab on Discord? Have you connected your Discord to your Twitch? Because it's automatic. If your Discord is connected to your Twitch, it should automatically sub you in. Alright, so this is basically a text simulator as we go around the world. Okay. We shall circumnavigate the globe within 80 days. He was quite calm as he proposed this wild scheme. We leave for Paris on the 8:25 in an hour, but of course. I answered, still extremely suspicious. He nodded. Good. Pack an altimeter in my evening jacket. There is not a moment to waste. You pass him, but now have fun.
Please hydrate.
Your character is now dependable. Okay. Collect our things and we will be off. He wanted an altimeter and his evening jacket. Most sees anything further that I thought might be useful for a long trip. A wax cylinder. It's expensive in Paris, so let's take it, I guess. Let's go. We're going from London to Paris. Departing now. Cool. Okay. Please hydrate. I will hydrate with the thing that I have here. Fogg can even get sick and you'll be forced to wait until he's well. I think he can even die. You can take items to trade for money to help make it across the world. The mechanical horses raced past Piccadilly Circus, where there was a gunfight in Call of Duty Modern Warfare and terrorists were getting shot to... I mean, wait, wrong game. And Paul Mall faster than a team of thoroughbreds. Even so, the whistle of the 825 was blowing as we pulled up to Charing Cross Station. We have no tickets. We raced along the concourse and I threw ourselves on aboard. As the second whistle shrieked its warning, we barely had time to take our seats before the guard rapped smartly on the compartment door. He held out a hand. Tickets, please. Alas, monsieur, we were in a great hurry. I pretended to have lost them. We were in a great hurry, I explained, giving him a beseeching look. We did not have time to buy tickets. You may purchase them from me, the guard was saying. Though it is more expensive, I'm afraid. £85, please. I argued with him. I handed over the £85. And smiled a thin smile from one working man to another. The guard gave me our tickets and slid the compartment door shut behind him with a pneumatic hiss. Your funds have gone down somewhat. You can take items to trade for money to help make your... Have I been put in the raffle automatically since I can't do it from here? I had no idea about that being a thing. Gift subs. Yeah, gift subs do count. You have to be a in the Discord, which I know you're not because you're just on console. But yeah, you're entered. I just need like Coke to put you in as like a placeholder. London smog gave way to rolling hills and pastures of the Kentish countryside, still untouched by the hand of technological advancement. Monsieur Fogg read his paper whilst I repacked our bags. I demanded to know the purpose of our journey. We passed the day in silence. Thrown together in haste and confusion, as afternoon turned into inexorably to evening, I discovered that my master was one of those gentlemen who broke their silence rarely, if at all. A guard rapped on our door. A few miles before Dover. We're about to submerge, he warned. Takes some people a bit funny, so watch out. What do you mean submerge? But it is safe, is it not? Very good. This is the London to Paris Amphitrite Express, he explained, as though to a particularly dim-witted child. The submersible train? Talk of all the London papers. I must have missed it. I admitted humbly. Missed it, he said scornfully. Every inch of her has been examined and stamped with the artificer's seal. This is the world's only bath-escape locomotive. I could not help a shiver. I pressed my face to the window glass as the fins above the Amphitrite's wheels extended with a hydraulic hiss. Night fell and we plunged past the end of the track into the freezing water of the English Channel. Your character is now organized. Put him in? Okay, cool. The Amphitrite plowed through the water overnight and splashed up onto water gauge. French tracks at Calais as dawn broke. Do you have a route in mind, monsieur? I demanded to know the purpose of our journey. I began to consider what we might require for our journey. I asked as the water of the channel dried up the compartment windows. I am as yet undecided, my master admitted. The new canal has sped up the shipping route from Suez to Bombay, though perhaps we could take the Trans-Siberian Railway across Russia. Surely not Bombay. Surely not Siberia. I exclaimed, it is too cold and grim, and I have a particular fear of bears. Then we would do well to buy furs, he replied, refraining from rolling his eyes. There are other alternatives. We may also travel overland and across the Black and Caspian Seas. But which is safest? Monsieur Fogg raised an eyebrow. There is no place in the world which is not safe for an Englishman, he said coolly and with great finality. Parbleu, I scarcely knew what to think. We arrived at Paris, Gare du Nord, just after 1 o'clock. Automaton porters lifted our luggage and then our persons onto the platform with long, delicately filigreed iron arms. Paris, city of my heart. I was home, but not to stay. New routes discovered. We can go to Bombay or Moscow. We've made it to Paris. Paris. Market. Alright, I know my wax cylinder is going to be... $470 sold. Shaving kit. Pear soap. Extra shoe case for 10 pounds. We'll take it. Wait, traveling cloak. Good for keeping out chill winds and heavy rain. Previously made and briefly valuable in Copenhagen, Warsaw, and Budapest. Chateau worth 2,300 pounds in Berlin. I guess we'll take a shaving kit. And I guess we'll take this as well. And we'll take this as well. Are we gonna go to Berlin? I'll take that in case. Alright, there. Market's finished. Bank. Opens at 10 a.m. We missed the bank. Paris is pretty. Did you say Berlin? Berlin. Berlin. We're in Berlin. How do we continue on? Oh. 220 miles away is London. To Paris. Jesus. That ain't... London to Paris, 220 miles. That ain't shite to an American. Oh, you can make it to Paris to Amsterdam in 330 miles? Wow. It's so crazy how close all these things are over here on this side. When in America... America's huge. Alright. Let's see. So... I guess I click on... What are my options here? Oh! Oh! I can click on any of these? Sweet! I can go anywhere I want. Let's go to Rome. Or should we go to Berlin? Berlin. Maybe Amsterdam and then Berlin. Can we go to Amsterdam? I want to go here. Is that not possible? Open the luggage. I have to follow the trail. Where's the trail? I have to go straight to Moscow or this one? Where does this take me? Through India. Down through India. I can go down through India. Or I can go through Russia. And then... Oh, I need to find a hotel. He's like, we need to find a hotel. Alright, let's find a hotel. We'll pass the night here. When was the last time I was on my Switch? Ages ago. Alright. Took a hotel for the night. We will be comfortable here, Munster Fogg remarked, but traveling overnight will often be more efficient, so we must board the longest journeys available, where possible. We cannot travel where it is not possible, certainly, he replied. Still, the surrounds of the Hotel Ritz were the most enjoyable. The clock is ticking. We must decide our next steps quickly. Okay. Oh, explore, right? Explore. New routes discovered. Ah, here we go. We had a few hours to spare. I asked Munster Fogg if I might enjoy my city before we had to leave. Indeed, should you learn anything of note, be sure to relay it, but do not waste any time. We have no time to spare. Why the hurry? I nodded and headed into town. The talk on the streets was of one thing only, an enormous, elegant oval stadium, constructed upon the green fields of Champ de Mars and containing the technological marvels, art, and amusement parks and milling crowns of the World's Fair of 1872. I ventured inside. The grand illuminated pavilions of the exposition. An artificer was replacing an arc light. I went west towards the airship hangar. Past a booth with a husband and wife pair selling panoramic hot air balloon rides to eager tourists. I inquired as their hourly rate. The hangar was crowded with airships. Wondering if perhaps the balloon could be encouraged to go a little way east as well and contribute to our great journey. £80 for a half-hour flight. That is robbery. Not today, I think. The man nodded and moved on to the next punter with great swiftness. I regarded the airships that filled the hangar behind him. I returned to the main hub of the exposition. Avenues sprawled in every direction between the inviting, illuminated pavilions of exposition. Repressing an arc light, which had burned out. She first disconnected the strange machine powering the lights. It had a spinning iron wheel, which was wound around a series of armature coils. What is that device? Copper lily pin which proclaim your profession. It's a bleeding nuisance is what it is. The artificer grumbler in a thick Yorkshire accent. These ground machines are finicky beasts. Well, it's a steam machine, alright? Only it doesn't make steam. Will that do? I hate explaining this stuff to laymen. As she unscrewed the arc light's globe of enamel glass and replaced the two carbon rods within, she reconnected the supply, and the 10 Yabloshavov candles connected in a series lit up at once. They are miraculous. There are already a fair pastel cities lit by electricity rather than gaslight. London will probably be the last, given old Queen Vicky's protest against the Artificers Guild. There are even Trevithick steam carriages on the streets these days. Pitting London's not as advanced as you think, laddie. She replied, there are more automata in the colonies than on London Street. She looked at her pocket watch, cursed, and hurried off, dropping something as she went. I pocketed it. Ha! I pocketed it. It was a guild medallion, a token of membership or a favor that might prove useful should we encounter other artificers along our path. Looked up at me once more. Crowds of tourists jostled in heavy past, their eyes wide with wonder. Headed towards the red and purple tents of the Artificers Guild. Took a stroll down the Avenue of Nations. I decided to take my leave. Dream of banners emblazoned with their copy of Lily's sigil. Steam pillar. Well, it's a Masonic gristed prelate of gloomy brass emissions. Most incredible display of machines. Scrapyard had been brought to playful life. One of the artificers was explaining the guild's credo to a group of sticky-fingered children. Human-shaped baton. Rummaging through his clockwork innards, he took out a piece of Greg's glass, appeared out of the jeweler's loop. Dashed thing. Upper-class English tones, and then looked up. Oh, hello. Oh, hello there. Eh? What? Oh. One glass shard. Dismissively. I'm trying to build an automaton that can cook ya, but it's not going well. He looked mournful. This one can't even fry a chip. It's been a dream of mine ever since I was a young lad at boarding school. It's why I became the artificer. So Miss Parsons could do in a cabbage. The tender stomachs of Britain's youth would be much safer in mechanical hands. The adepts we gave them credit for. My feet were tiring and the hour was growing late. I returned to Monsieur Fogg, who was eating a meal of plain boiled beef. Did you enjoy the exposition? Been out visiting aged great aunt. I'm witnessing all the wonders that modern world had to offer. Nothing else could possibly impress me now. You're unspeakably lucky to live in such an age of invention. Will we travel by airship, do you suppose? Do you think we will encounter artificers on our travels? I asked with enthusiasm. Assuredly. Intend for us to use the most efficient transport available. I dreamed that night of mechanical wonders and automatons with beautifully enameled faces, knowing little of the strange inventions and stranger peoples I would soon encounter on my journey around the world. The medallion should fetch a good price in Karachi. Shall we decide to sell it? Depart. Let's go to Amsterdam by private car for £75. Let's go. The car's roof has space for one suitcase, but we have 3. Open luggage. We have 3? Oh. I would like to go to Berlin. I am not gonna hire a second car just for a freaking medallion. Sold. Oh, okay, you just sell it like that. Okay. Alright, let's go. Oh, the car only has space for 1 suitcase, but we have 2. Oh, no. That's not good. Well, we're definitely gonna need the cloak. I don't know. We'll just... This looks like a bothersome route. Hey, Duroc, what's up? Found a member of the Coachmakers Guild to carry us to Amsterdam. She loaded the cases onto the back, stoked the boiler, and took off at high speed on the coastal road, swerving around each corner, conservative skill, and I think a touch of recklessness. Some glee or discomfort, a touch of showmanship. I clung on tight. This would be a terrific ride. We're going to Berlin. I'm gonna go to Berlin. 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 Once or twice, the metal rim wheels lifted the chassis clear from the road on one side, only to bump down after a chuff and puff more of the engine. We were jolted around like so much poultry. We must have topped 40 as the wind whipped through our hair. Ghastly state of affairs. Fabulous way to travel. The Polish inventor Bozek, who first attached a perfectly decent locomotive engine underneath a flimsy wooden crate, was clearly a genius. We're not destined to be a valley until the day I have gray hairs in my ears. I would become a car driver. I would become a mechanic. I would become a car driver and gad the rich and famous around the mountains of South France every day between the hours of 2 and 6. Does such a role exist? Perhaps I will invent it. Toot toot. As we rattled along, I spoke to our driver about what lay ahead and learned that some buyers pay well for evening jackets from Warsaw. Hey, we made it to Amsterdam. You know what that means. We're gonna get fucked up. Though the people of Amsterdam move about its canal-side streets with a sense of optimism and good cheer, I felt no pressing need to linger. "200 years ago, this was the center of the world, but these days, tulips are no longer considered more valuable than gold. The importance of Amsterdam is little faded. I sympathize. Bonjour. France's own position has been precarious since. Ill-advised venture to attempt to conquer all of Europe and Russia. Besides, would I walk along this scene one day thinking back to our days of lost glory?" He greeted me with a cheerful smile beneath a caterpillar-like mustache. "We're going around the world. What is the cheapest way out of the city? What's the fastest way out on here?" "Most likely the hydrofoil heading north to Norway," he shrugged. "It is fine enough if you don't mind being jolted about. Is Norway worth visiting?" "Is it fast?" 2 days, I think." Fadler reached into his pocket. "Buy an apple, £1." I bought it and took it with a smile. "What's the fastest way from here?" "Car, I suppose. The roads are good. Canals used to be better, but now they seem almost out of date. Cursed to be rich in the past. By the time the future rolls around, you're poor again." "Maybe you'll be rich again sometime," I remarked, more from sheer optimism than any true conviction. "We're going around the world," I declared. "Aha! You are like the influenza." I think the peddler moved on. "So many choices. All that remained was to choose how best to depart. Your funds have gone down a touch." Alright. We can go to Berlin, Copenhagen, or up here to tomorrow, Sunday. Let's go to Berlin. I rather think this departure could be altered. Negotiate. Departing in 36 minutes. Uncomfortable conditions in the open road. This looks like a bothersome experience, but the traveling cloak from a gentleman traveler set should be of some assistance. Yes, they said I'm like the influenza. Our next leg was another short trip in a car. I bounded in, eager to get started. "We hired the same driver as before. You too," she exclaimed. "Get in." So the same driver that took us from Paris to Amsterdam is taking us from Amsterdam to Berlin. As we departed Amsterdam for Berlin, I begged Monsieur Fogg to allow me a turn at the wheel. He looked at our driver, smiled, and happily moved to one side. The wheel beneath my hands was like nothing I have ever experienced before, almost an electrical sensation. Such a responsibility. Knowing the slightest sneeze could send us veering into a ditch. The mechanism of the car I drove by sheer instinct. Quite without thought, mechanisms involved. That presumably is how we became a cropper. I had assumed the car would start as normal. I confess it, I drove like a loon. After we paused on a slope to avoid a wondering passerby, I was mistaken, however, as we rolled backwards. Uh-oh. I do believe that all that stopped us was the ditch into which we tilted, caught like a ship in the bottle. Far worse was the expression on my master's face. Hours later, the car was fixed and we were able to drive on, but the irrevocable had already occurred. We were now a day behind. We made good progress in the car, but not enough to recover our lost time. Toot, my friends, toot. So our driver asked quite suddenly, after a full day and a half of silence, why are you going to Berlin anyway? South towards the Istanbul and Black Sea. We're going around the world. The driver frowned. By car? By car, train, airship, whatever we can find. She nodded. You should go south into Africa. The Zulus near Ulundi run long-distance airships across the world. That was the extent of our discussion. She returned to driving and I to watching the world slip by. The road swept beneath our feet like a dogged gardener. Finally, we came upon sight of tiled roofs, the harbor, and the smell of herring. We had arrived in Berlin. Sold. Caribbean timetable. Whoa. Houston, Miami, New Orleans. Hotel for a day. Cherries and whipped cream. Mmm. We stayed for the night in the Hotel Adlon in Unter den Linden, the main boulevard in the central Mitte district. From the window, the Brandenburg Gate was lit by upturned gas lamps. I decided to retire early. I went for a late night stroll. Along the avenue, past groups of people drinking at low tables. Sat down beside a pair of ladies. I sat with a man who was demonstrating various engine noises. Pair of ladies, who were each trying to outdrink the other. I joined in their game. I kept score for them. As jug by jug they slid slowly underneath the outdoor table and onto the cobblestones beneath. The evening was riotous, and I learned from my new friends Adele and Claudia that Minsk could be reached from Warsaw aboard the Belarus Express. Ah. Oh, Berlin, they tell me, was once filled with the glorious sound of people speaking French. Not so anymore.
Time for a posture check.
Now, there's nothing but the crashing of gears. It seemed so foul in the streets we did not go out.
Please hydrate.
Stayed in our lodgings consulting pamphlets on the railway networks of the worlds that were delivered to our room by a strange system of connected leather pulleys. It seemed that the Orient Express, the beldame of pan-European travel, was in fact prone to delays and reschedulement, while the smaller routes run by German companies were substantially more efficient. The afternoon turned to evening, and we finished our explorations of Berlin. Depart. Wow. I found the connection to Moscow. Warsaw. Jackets. Let's go. Berlin to Warsaw. The newly amalgamated German Reich Railways made a political point of their efficiency to quiet any nationalist rumblings. The departures left at the moment they claimed, not a second before and not a second after. Suspecting an attempted to plan ahead. Loading all the luggage a full hour early, ensuring Monsieur Fogg was installed the moment the guards lifted the gate. However, in my preparations, I somehow left my own ticket behind, and was forced to buy a forgery from an old woman with only one tooth, and was forced to jump the barrier. Oh God. These are my only two options? Oh God. Which she used to cut the punch holes into a blank ticket. I was highly suspicious. I had no choice but to trust this unconventional racketeer. Handing over a banknote, racing for the train, I made it aboard with a heartbeat to spare. Found my master's compartment and sat calmly down. I found the bar and settled my nerves. He merely acknowledged my presence with a nod and went back to reading. Will nothing unsettle this man? We arrived in good time as expected and disembarked into the windy streets of Warsaw. Plan. Going to Minsk and then Moscow. This could be discussed. Seems they're pretty demanding. Two days at 3 p.m. Accordion. Minsk. Valuable in Minsk. Well, I'm not going there, so... If I sell this, do the timetables go away? We walked the streets of Warsaw, feeling the air of a different continent all around. In less than 2 generations, the Tsars had made this little outpost all their own. There were signs of dissent on every corner. They have made it much nicer, too. They're building works on every road, with great digging machines sitting idle during the day and coming to life in the evening as they carve out sewage and water systems that will allow the city grow to enormous size. Touch of Empire can do wonders. This place will be unrecognizable soon. I declared, and Fogg agreed. For now, They are writing the landscape, but soon they will attempt to do the same to the people. He shook his head sadly. When will people realize that only the English are fit to run an empire? What a pair of travelers we are, putting this silly world to rights. Negotiate. This will be a bothersome experience, but the traveling cloak for my gentleman traveler set should make my master more comfortable. We're taking the Belarus Express from Poland to Russia. We clambered aboard the train. Monsieur Fogg sat in a far corner like a dusty old uncle, and I went to sit next to him. Pressed my nose against the glass. Watching the bleak countryside roll past. Trains are such marvelous contraptions. I could have been an engine driver myself, I think, if I weren't so dreadfully clumsy, if I wasn't such a dreadfully dirty job. A life of coal, scuttles, and engine grease. This is going to be a long journey. If I get the option to go through Dallas, I'm going to go through Dallas. We arrived at Minsk after nightfall and watched as people hurried from the train and quickly disembarked. And watched... we'll stay on the train. Monsieur Fogg held his teacup close and I huddled beneath a blanket. At least for tonight, we were safe. We're not going to stop in Minsk. We'll stop in Moscow, though. You can converse during the trip, can open new routes, and you can tend to Fogg to keep his health up. Oh. A shaped mustache. Excellent. Morning came and we were still crossing the Russian countryside, the train moving on its slow and steady way. I spent the time waiting on my master's needs, eavesdropping, watching the scenery go by. Say eavesdropping. Trying to find options for our next leg, discovering from a charming Muscovite artist that the governor of Omsk is a likable fellow who enjoys travelers' tales. Finally, we pulled into the stone edifice that was Moscow Station and disembarked. The pocket altimeter should be quite valuable here. Jack passenger. Rest and recuperates that for soothing aching muscles. Deep like flesh, salve of arnica. Top hat. I'll take the top hat. False passport. Jack passenger. Should protect against uncomfortable conditions and help us negotiate times of upper-class journeys. Okay. Cool. Oh man, we gotta make it all the way across Russia. 16 days. Jesus. They're pretty demanding. 1,800 in 2 days, 500 pounds in 3 days. If you try and negotiate, you can speed up the time of travel, but it will cost you more just to negotiate. Sometimes it doesn't always help you out. 503 days, I guess. Moscow was not a comfortable city for a Frenchman. A local composer had just written a piece people were calling the 1812 Overture, commemorating the Russian victory over Napoleon's invading Grande Armée that fateful year. Patriotic passions were at a fever pitch. Did not let that stop me from exploring the city, though I resolved to remain mute. And objectionable should I encounter anyone. Traverse the city on foot, keeping out of sight of patrols of policemen and Cossack troops mounted on black mechanical steeds. The wide boulevards and electric architecture of Svrka Street towards the outdoor markets. Staria Square, they were full apple-cheeked young boys and all wrapped up present women selling ceramics, which seemed plain on the surface, but a variety of special merchandise for a discerning customer. 1860. I purchased it for £50. Expensive, but sure to be worth the price for such a rich Bordeaux. As the bells of the nearby church chimed the hour, I returned to our hotel, content with my brief view of the Tsar's capital city. Free negotiate. You can also go to the bank if you need more funds, but you have to wait in that city for a certain amount. Ah. I see. When does our train leave? Plan? Oh. Departs in 2 days? 2 days at 11. £500 tomorrow. I took a few hours to explore, investigating various options for how we might continue our journey. Bank. We must visit the bank, Monsieur Fogg declared. You have an additional funds? A robbery, Monsieur? Certainly not, he replied firmly, but do you suppose I put my entire fortune into a carpet bag under your supervision? I regarded the bank as we entered. It was a palace of stone and shimmering marble floors with beautiful windows, fountains, and plants. You wish to withdraw funds? We were told. I warn it may take some time. £1,000 tomorrow. My train leaves tomorrow, but I can withdraw 1,000 tomorrow. I'll have to communicate with London first, of course. Shall I reply tomorrow? We have some time to dispose of. With what remained of the day, I washed and hung our linen. I went out to explore a little. Everything was shipshape for our upcoming departure. Deteriorated slightly. Our funds will be ready to collect when the bank opens. Tapping the clock will skip times forwards. Tapping the clock. 11 a.m. Bank. Turn the bank opening to collect our funds, and then we were ready to proceed once more. Okay, depart. St. Petersburg. Have you made it all the way around the world before, Dustin? The line to Moscow to St. Petersburg is affectionately known as the Tsar's Finger, perfectly straight apart from bend near the city of Novgorod. It went through the road designed by Tsars, told the Tsar with a ruler except where he drew around his own fingertip. It's typical of the popular image of interfering Russian Tsars, and the story found to be widely believed. You've done it a few times. Begin conversation. Ask Madame in about. May I see your ticket? What can you tell me of St. Petersburg? Did you know you can get to Minsk from St. Petersburg or St. Petersburg Express, but the journey is a tiring one? About this route. Okay. I don't really need... Wait, am I going the wrong way? Oh, shoot, I'm going the wrong way. I'm going north. Oh no! I was supposed to go this way. Oh crap. Conversation. Pyongyang Trans-Manchurian Railway rates from Kirgizistan to Beijing. I'm going north instead of... You don't have to make it around in 80 days. Okay, good. Alright. I'll be right back. Okay, the Obscura painting. What's that from? Is that from... Why do I know that? Why does that sound familiar? What is that from? Is that Tomb Raider? It's going to be a visible lessening of tension as we approach the borders of Russia. Angel of Darkness. Ah! Leaving the cold, bear-infested country behind shortly after we arrived in grand, imposing surrounds St. Petersburg Station. Some of our possessions would trade well here. Cold climate set. Heavy storm. Immortalized by Dostoevsky and Gogol would have been unreasonable. Those venerable riders, imperial soldiers fill the streets with Galitzine, Kadunki, Rose Placard, and hydraulic walkers. They're battling riding peasants. We stay boldly and decisively away. No more than occasional flying fragments, stone bashed out of some wall somewhere. Can't believe I went the wrong way. Oh my god, where does that go? Travel onwards. What the hell? Where does... We could we could cut through freaking Alaska, maybe. Calgary. The North Pole? You actually go to the North Pole? Smeerenberg. Hot air balloon departs for Smeerenberg tomorrow at 12 noon. We'll have to stay the night. Let's go to the North Pole, man. Spend the night. As night fell, I buffed and shone my master's pocket watch. Prepare, improve slightly. Okay, good. All right, let's go. Let's go up here. High winds and cold weather. This seems bothersome experience, but cold climate set should soften things a little. Nothing express about this. I have arranged transport for us, Mr. Fogg said, cool as a cucumber. I nearly spat out my tea. Where are we headed? I guess and just shuffled his newspaper. We're going north. He took a sip of tea. Very north. How far north? Smeerenberg, he said, showing me the location marked on his almanac. It was indeed very north. Perhaps even very, very north. But should we not be heading east? Why are we going there? And then looked up and we gleaming eyes. Sometimes, Pastor Tart, he says, like, the best way to untie a knot is not to untie it at all. Sometimes one must simply slice through it. The Alexandrian solution. He had surely gone mad. I did not dare ask. Remember to fancy his cool blue eyes warmed though, Mr. If you are Alexander the Great, does that make me his loyal steed, his general Vestian? Cast my nose down if I spoke the words where my presumption was more than Alexander's general. He was a friend, a bodyguard, an alter ego, a friend, perhaps even more than a friend. But I was a valet, Mr. Fogg. Merely took a breath, rustled his newspaper, and ordered me to ready our bags to depart soonest. I found myself entirely full of gratitude for his habit of stiff reserve. Oh my god. We're going to the North Pole! Yeah! This is gonna be awesome! The captain of our balloon was a dark-browed woman by the name of Yana Starostina. What exactly is it you hunt? What sort of settlement is Smerenberg? Yes, imagining an ice-whipped, utterly forlorn wasteland, testament to nature's glory. The captain heaved a sigh. The sort where you need to keep your wits about you. She raised an eyebrow. It's a lawless place, and you and your master seem genteel fellows. Did not sound like a compliment. We are men of the world. With a little shrug. Is that so? Captain Starostina smiled tightly. Don't get drunk and try to stay out of fights. I'm sure you'll be fine. Then she was summoned to the navigation room and I retired to our cabin to rest. The only bad thing about cutting through North Pole is I'm going to miss going through Japan. When we awoke the next morning, our cabin door was locked. We must have been locked in. Quite so, he said dryly. We shall simply have to wait and see what the good captain requires of us. You think it was the captain? By the time the door handle rattled, it was late afternoon, and Mary wore in a groove in the floor had sunk in the sea. Really, my masters also, though I pretended not to hear, and gave him a look of sympathy, which he resolutely ignored. The door opened to reveal Captain Starostina. Gentlemen, she said evenly, as though she was not holding us prisoner. Pointing an accusing finger. Captain, I replied with a heavy irony. I was pleased to see her wince a little. You will not deny that I have played a blackguard with you. I will not deny that I played the blackguard with you. You will have your explanation tomorrow. Will you lock us in until then? What will you change tomorrow? We are paying passengers. You must give us our freedom or our money. I am still taking you to your destination, Captain replied, looking rather taken back. Are you a captain, madame, or a pirate? I cannot trust a word you say. Damn you, she scrubbed a hand through her dark hair. I will not be so accused. You will have a part of your money back, and I will hear no more of it. She closed the cabin door behind her, and I heard the lock slide shut. I confess, by the time Captain Starostina returned to release us, I had convinced myself our throats were to be slit, formed the most outlandish optimistic theories. Such as it was. Then the door opened and broke my reverie. Gentlemen, you are free, the captain announced with a dramatic flourish. We are far enough from St. Peter's that you can do no harm. Do you think we are spies? You think we will do harm? You are the one who has harmed us. The Tsar has a long reach, was her only reply. I can trust no one. It's a family matter. Unable to let the small matter of our imprisonment slide. I will show you, Captain Starostina declared, and took us down to the cargo hold where two injured women lay in makeshift cots. Who are they? Unable to pull my eyes from their pale faces and bandaged limbs. You must have noticed the riots in St. Petersburg, the captain asked, settling beside the younger of the two women. We stayed away. Smart, her face softened and she looked down at the unconscious form. My niece is not so smart. Her mouth but a croaking murmur started to reply. I am very smart, Auntie. I passed all my examinations. And where did that get you? The captain. A factory job. The injured woman winced and sat up on her elbows to regard me curiously. I am Comrade Vravka. Are you so seen with foreigners, Auntie? How rebellious of you. Be quiet, girl, the captain grumbled fondly. I looked over at the other woman. Is she also a comrade? Captain Starostina's expression darkened. That is Staff Captain Akhmatova, the Tsar's Imperial Army. I thought we were fleeing the Imperial Army. She turned on the other soldiers. Vravka said quietly, more to her aunt than to me. I could not leave her there. You should rest, Captain Starostina. Dragged me out of the cargo hold by the elbow. Awareness was so great that I found myself unwilling to do anything but walk in silence beside her. To my surprise, Comrade Ravka was at breakfast and called me over to her side. You are looking better, I said, lying only a little. Flatterer, Ravka laughed. She gestured at the stiff-backed woman sitting to her left. Have you met Staff Captain Akhmatova? Jaunty salute. Clear her throat. I am no longer a Tsarist officer, she said, mildly turning her gaze to Ravka. You should call me Daria. Daria, then. I was quite forgotten in the tension that crackled between the two. They scarcely noticed when I murmured my goodbye and slipped away. Captain Starostina summoned me to her table at lunchtime. She poked at her herring morosely. They are holding hands, she announced in dark tones. Who, in dulcet tones, feigning ignorance, my sweet fool of a niece and that woman? Do you think I care about that? The captain hissed. She's a Muscovite. She probably thinks she's better than all of us provincials with their sophisticated attitudes. She seems to like your niece quite well, I shrugged. And why shouldn't she? My niece is every bit as good as she is. The captain bit to a herring head vengefully. They seem happy together. What do you think will happen when we get to Smearberg, eh? Captain Starostina pinched the bridge of her nose. The nearest thing to a local theater there is Barroom Brawl. They'll have to just entertain themselves with a little wink. Can't wait to tell my sister. The captain looked a little bit more cheerful at the prospect. She's going to pickle Revka in a whale oil and feed her to the sled dogs. She began to chuckle, and I was still chuckling when we tethered at the whaling port of Smearberg a few hours later. A traveling cloak could earn us well here. Gentleman Traveler set completed. Monkey Wrench, part of the engineer set. San Pedro, Ottawa, and Omaha, good for making it to knives. Dusty Road set. Burlington, San Francisco, and Chicago. High-grade iron ore. We gotta explore some routes from here. The stench of Smearberg was all-pervading. It mingled with coal, smog, and thick plumes of steam to form a foul miasma that hung thick and grim and unaccountably oily over the settlement. Should never be able to wash this out of my jacket. I made a production of coughing and choking. Took a few deep breaths, trying to accustom myself to the terrible odor as quickly as possible. It is Wales, nearby fellow put in sagely in Finnish accented English. I greeted him courteously, feeling the need to maintain some semblance of civilization in this place so lacking in it. Man pointed several copper kettles nearby. They were set into brick. I was belching black smoke from their chimneys. They render the well blubber there. For oil and fuel, you become accustomed to the smell. I let my gaze wander. Smearberg was not what I expected, but rather an industrial township of smithies and workshops. Smugglers, expeditionaries, hunters, and traders. Further inland, I spotted church spires, gambling dens, alehouses, dim-lit brothels. Rather lurked a dour fort with guns trained on the horizon. I am Vidi Jokinen, the man said, cutting into my thoughts. You don't look like seal hunters or smugglers, so if you'll forgive me. What are you doing here? We are going around the world, I said with perhaps less enthusiasm than was warranted. Oh, are you adventurers? He pronounced the last with a generous smearing of disdain. I had hoped perhaps that you were geologists. We are travelers, not adventurers. I corrected. We have a purpose. It was not an untruth. We did indeed have a purpose, or so I imagined. What is your purpose here? Pointed to his collar, where a copper lily pin gleamed, talking his furs. I am an artificer. There's a guild outpost here. Introduce myself, my master, politely. It was never a good idea to cross an artificer. I'm here on an expedition to the North Pole, as it happens, he said, casually enough. Monsieur Fogg's demeanor altered entirely. You don't say, he remarked. My good fellow, let me buy you whatever it is they drink here. Hopefully it does not contain whales. I muttered. Monsieur Fogg brushed me away. You know, go and amuse yourself. I will return later. With that, he all but dragged Monsieur Junkinen away. We'll pass the night here. I was masterless in a cold city. I scarcely remember how I passed the hours. I walked the cobbled streets and steam vent heated alleys of Smearenburg. Watched a group of hard-bitten men and women flint a whale's flesh from its bones, chatted amiably the group of shivering prostitutes at the dock, and narrowly avoided a brawl at one of the taverns. Could not stop thinking of the North Pole. It was a dream, a myth, as much as any real place. It was one of my dreams, too. What child had not read the stories of Franklin's lost expedition of 1845 and imagined themselves finding his ship perfectly preserved, of sailing into the pure white and making something unknown known? Those were my thoughts at the moment my master returned. Cheeks reddened with an unnatural flush. He announced, slurring his words ever so slightly, "We are going to the North Pole." "Ha ha! I will prepare some hot water," I replied. After all, what else was there to say? Yes, baby! Boom! Let's go to the North Pole. Oh, man. This looks like a wearisome option, but the cold climate set should be of some assistance. -70 plus 47. I confess I gaped like a simpleton when Mr. Junkins showed us the enormous contraption that would lead the polar expedition. "We call it the Ice Walker," said, patting one of the enormous metal skis attached to the machine's underside. "More of an ice skier or an Icelander, non? What a practical name." Who merely nodded to himself and said, "Adequate." Monsieur Junkinen covered a slight smile with one graceful mittened hand. The machine was vaguely boat-shaped, with a pilot's bubble of reinforced glass at the front. A wicked-looking harpoon was mounted at the back. Thick fur covered the joints, fuel lines, and boilers. Insulate them from the cold. The hull itself resembled that of a kosh used by the Palmer people for Arctic hunting. Rounded lines, an additional layer of flush skin planking, protective false keel. "Has this Ice Walker been tested before?" I asked. "Yes." Monsieur Junkinen looked a little uncomfortable, and my heart sank a little in my chest. "Not in these exact conditions, perhaps." "Does it have the guild mark at least?" I asked, not caring if I sounded a touch querulous. Monsieur Junkinen nodded, and I took much comfort from that as I possibly could. "She is the result of 3 years of work and hundreds of artificers' ingenuity and sweat," Monsieur Junkinen said, unable to keep the pride from his voice. "Is this the guild's first polar expedition?" I could see him consider lying, but he discarded the impulse. "No," he did not elaborate. "Even this expedition is quite secret." "You told a pair of strangers." "Strangers in Smearenburg, at the very edge of the world." He paused. "Besides, you can hardly tell anyone if we fail, and we won't need to keep it secret if we succeed." Monsieur Fogg cleared his throat behind me. "Let us go on aboard." His eyes looked overly bright. "Feverish, perhaps?" "No, not fevered. The early signs of sun blindness." But eager. It was unsettling to see him like this. I was so used to his mask of cool indifference to the triumphs and disasters that had beset us. "It's gonna start getting cold." Ice cold. I wonder what possible paths there are to take from the North Pole. That's a long ways to get to Alaska. Going entirely over the top of the planet. I'm going more north than I ever did going east in this journey so far. We settled in and heard two sharp whistles signaled our departure. With a rumble of boilers and crack of ice, we began our expedition into the uncharted peril of the Arctic. I could not help but wonder whether we would find the North Pole, find only our deaths, or arrive in London within 40 days. At long last, and perhaps even make history. I turned the well oil lamps down low and climbed into bed, but it was a long time before I fell into sleep. We stopped at the nearby bay of Virgo Hamna, tied a large tethered balloon to our convoy to be used for meteorological readings and short explorations. A lone artificer manned this small hangar that jutted up from the icy beach and glared at the ice walker. What a vulgar contraption. Surprises me for an artificer, I remarked, but the man looked unimpressed by my observation. Any fool can see it's vulgar, even an artificer could. He stuck out his hand. I am Solomon Auguste Andre. I propose that we take my balloon all the way to the North Pole, but the council requisitioned it mere support and ordered me to stay behind. Why would you want to go on such a dangerous expedition? Dangerous only to an amateur. Looked north with unadulterated longing in his eyes. Out there is nature in all her merciless majesty. A man may find his truest self there. He has the courage. Call it a lack of sense. Really? The artificer gritted his teeth. Then why are you going? Mere curiosity. The man's doorness broke into wheezing laughter. Oh yes, that sounds entirely sensible. Entirely sensible indeed. Monsieur Jacquemin appeared at my side, pulled me back to the ice walker with only a tight-lipped look at Monsieur Andre. Why don't we travel by air all the way? I asked, curiosity piqued. Balloons don't have enough steering control and airships are too fuel hungry. I replied promptly. I see Solomon's been bleeding at you. I'd say even he was obsessed, pull mad. Aren't all artificers? He drew himself in front before giving me a scrutinizing look and letting his shoulders drop. Maybe, he chuckled. Maybe. Thank you. Your attentions are most beneficial. At breakfast, Monsieur Jacquemin introduced us to our fellow expeditionists. I paid particular attention to the lead research artificer, the leader of the formidable Pomer hunters, my master, who it seemed to me had never been happier than here, sat between hunters and artificers and traveling at high speed across an uncharted continent, while still being able to drink his tea at the correct temperature. Thank you, my good man. I feel better. Halfway through the afternoon, we fetched up at an icy cliff far too sheer to be essayed by the ice walker skis. Will we tunnel through it? Will we find another way around? What is this anticipated? Peering out from the thick glass window of the bridge, Mr. Jacquemin cast me a look full of mischief and pulled a lever of gleaming wood. We lurched down with a mechanical hiss, and the engines hummed at a higher pitch. I studied my master, who looked perhaps a little more grimly calm than usual. At our abrupt motion, I tightened my grip on the nearby handhold. Out of the window, I saw the mechanical skis bend and articulate. They must have had hidden joints, forming themselves into sharp claws, which dug into the opaque ice. Scuttled up the ice face. There's no other word to describe it. The ice walker swung and hissed and spewed steam in great shrieking gouts, but we beat it up in less than 5 minutes. Next time, buckle up. I was in the end grateful for the artificer's foresight in designing such a contraption. Now that the gut-wrenching terror had passed, it did seem like quite a jolly adventure. Hey Dustin, have you ever took this route before? The coast of Spitsbergen disappeared in our wake. There was no land between here and the pole, or none that had been discovered. It was entirely possible that there was nothing but frozen ocean and endless sky ahead. It was night in the Arctic, a 4-month-long night. I walked the open balcony and watched for wildlife. We might as well have skied across the moon. Relieved only by the way the snow gathered and reflected what little light there was, brief auroral rosiness of the sky at midday. It was quiet and still. It was possessed with drifting loneliness, beautiful, spare, beautiful sort of way. Didn't even know you could go to the North Pole. It was though I could look out on the open vista and unmoor myself, let myself melt and drift, shimmer into its white spaces. Behind us are the little clustered lights of civilization, and only unrelieved whiteness lies ahead. Good thing I got that pack, the pack that keeps you warm. I was heating Monsieur Fogg's shaving water to a precise degree when I heard a long trumpet blast, sound of many boots thumping in the corridor. I gave Monsieur Fogg a beseeching look. I continued about my duties placidly, earning a look of faint approval from Monsieur Fogg. A man's shave is a sacred thing. As I bent my razor to his neck, stay silent, focused. I am honored you trust me, monsieur. Well, he said mildly, his voice perhaps faintly tinged with fondness. You are a very good valet, after all. The Ice Walker fell strangely silent as I applied a hot towel to my master's clean chin. As we explored the cabin, we found the ship quiet. Something, it seemed, was afoot. We learned that yesterday's commotion was a whale hunt. The horrid carcass is being dragged behind us as we speak. Apparently, Monsieur Mazinski is waiting for the present squall to pass before they begin processing the beast. I'm grateful to have missed the bloody event. Sorry to have missed it, and for all the warm shave. Trail of blood behind us now. Like some ghoulish snail, I do not know what to make of it. It's going to be interesting to see where I go from here, though. Set of mechanical pincers emerged from the back of the Ice Walker, grabbed at the whale's carcass from the water, and pulled it into a escaping maw. The artificers told me that it would be processed for fuel on our journey ever north. Standing on one of the metal walkways above the rendering station, it was as though the Ice Walker itself was consuming the whale. Vast area of pipes pierced into the corpse, sucking out the whale oil in great heaving gulps. Long blades whirred and sliced, chopping blubber away from meat. The crew carted the blubber copper kettles, minced the meat up for curing and drying, did not seem to mind the foul work. Though it turned my stomach, I could not stop thinking about it even as I lay in my berth that night, and the smell of oil and blood chased me in my dreams. Sir Fogg had managed to find himself a whist partner from amongst the artificers' ranks. It was an arcane talent of his, and one I greatly envied. One could easily find contentment. Me. The fellow in question was a youth of barely 20, handsome enough and pallid-eyed, short of mode, and apparently some sort of meteorological prodigy. I wished him joy of partnering with my master. Did not like the way he looked at my master. Took myself off for a turn about the decks, and later a little drink at the illicit still in the cargo hold. Ah, there you are, Passepartout. Monsieur Jokin flashed me a bright smile. Would you like to come up in the balloon with me this afternoon? We need some meteorological readings, but we can make a picnic of it. I agreed fervently, eager to escape the monotony, rather glad of his company. An hour later, we were climbing the swinging rope ladder to the tethered balloon. I shivered and resisted the urge to look down, and we were a long way up. The stranger pulled himself onto the gondola and extended a hand. I let him help me pull him, but managed to catch my knee on the edge of his long coat. and tumble us together in a heap. I'm so sorry, Monsieur. Seems I have fallen for you, Monsieur. I jested, trying to catch my breath. He laughed as we picked ourselves up and cast me a look under his lashes. Call me Vidi, eh? Surely we know each other that well by now. He excused himself to cast off and set the instruments. In the meanwhile, I set out lunch for well-meat and oatmeal. As prettily as I could, given the circumstances, I even managed to scrounge up a little tallow candle for a cup of civilization. Then I went up to the observation deck and joined Vidi at the railing. The ice walker was still visible, a hulking shape belching dark smoke into the misty white. We were suspended in an endless sky in a moment of calmness. Thank you, I murmured quietly. It cast me an almost shy smile, and we ducked back down to the warmth for an amiable lunch. Yeah, we're almost to the North Pole. It's taken a while, but we're... Today the Icewalker's pilot threw a cloudberry pie at the ship navigator's face at lunch. Questionable waste of good pie. Fine berry the cloudberry. No, this is no euphemism. Necessary resources. The cloudberries were rationed out daily amongst the expeditioners to prevent scurvy, given our lack of exposure to sunlight. I kept my head down and out of artificer business. It was healthier that way. Perhaps all these adventures all over the world are finally knocking some sense into my poor, much abused head. I'm just wondering, like, once I get to the North Pole, finally, what are the routes I'm going to be able to take from here? Today I sought out Vidi. Jokin sat with Monsieur Fogg as he read an old journal. And on one of the observation decks, I dozed a little. Woke to find that someone, my pastor perhaps, had tucked a blanket over my lap as I slept. We lapsed into silence then, but it was a comfortable one born of familiarity. I'm trying to do all the good things for my master so his health stays up. In inconsensual sort of day, one of the artificers accidentally released a pack of little spider-like automatons. An undercook oversalted the porridge. I dreamed of Arctic terns, causing rumbles of discontent. One of the artificers accidentally released a pack. We made progress across the ice, though I do not know how one can tell. Oh, we're gonna go from the North Pole to the South Pole? Today I paid a visit to the cook. I poked my head into the navigation room. Monsieur Baker, who is in a foul mood. Are you here to complain about the salty porridge? He cast a grin at an quivering apprentice. Get in line. Just to say hello, I told him brightly, and his expression relaxed. He fetched me a piece of well meat cured with cloudberries, a new recipe he was experimenting with. I assured him it was wonderful and tossed the remainder to a nearby pot, ate every last mouthful in front of him to prove my point. Do not say I am not committed to my endeavors, however trifling. It'll be interesting if you can go from North Pole to somewhere in Alaska. Disaster has struck. Uh-oh. Okay. So cold. The Ice Walker has been destroyed. Oh no. We are stranded. Monsieur Fogg is still alive, but only barely. We're stranded. Upon an ice floe in the bitterest cold I have ever experienced. I have only a few moments to scribble this entry, so I will keep it to the most important of facts. We have little hope of rescue and few supplies. It seems certain we will die here. Only not yet. There is too much to do. What? I feel somewhat below par. Yeah. We're stuck here. I've gained a little warmth in my fingers by putting them into compacted snow enough to write. Monsieur Fogg is severely hurt. I know. His health dropped. Nobody knows what happened. Disaster struck in the middle of the night. The Palmer crew suspect vengeful wells, versus blame boiler explosions. I could not help but remember Monsieur Andretti's bitterness. What does it matter why? I could not care less. My only care is how we might go on. What a video fail safes. Monster Fog is severely hurt. They activated, saving us a series of pneumatic escape tubes that shot us, and pieces of equipment, crates, suitcases, all hurtling as far from the sinking wreck as possible. He had done his best, and I was grateful for that, but Vidi seemed to feel responsible for our situation and has lapsed into dark, brooding silences as he looks around our cobbled-together camp, or at our ever-dwindling stock of food. I can write no more. Too cold. Oh, God. Madame Joe glared up in the sky, muttered, "Bugger this," strapped on her snowshoes and began walking out into the whiteness. I called after her, but she did not look back, looked around at the thinned ice, round faces of the other survivors, and wondered how long it would be before another one of us simply gave up and walked out into the snow. Wondered whether it would be me. Even now the snow seemed inviting. There was more of it than there was of our little heap of life. We clung to the rock, and Joe had swum. I looked down at my master's too pale and shivering form and tried desperately to think of how I could help him. I approached the cook for supplies, keenly aware that I hardly first to do so. Baker saw something in my face that caused him to hand me a day's ration of cured whale, an unexpected, even unbelievable bounty. I had to blink away tears. Is there nothing more? I considered grappling with him to get more, and he very kindly pretended that he did not see them. I fed each strip to my master carefully, reverently watching his color slowly return as he chewed. So are we moving, or are we not moving? I don't know what we're doing here. Are we just like stuck in the North Pole? In Antarctica? The sky was ablaze when I woke. Spectacular streamers of emerald green and bruised purple, flush pink. The aurora borealis. Nearby artificer whispered in awe, "It is magnificent." It seemed to me as though the sky itself was singing us its goodbye, giving us hope. Painted in coruscating colors across the horizon, seems that the prospect of death makes me sentimental. I'm just trying to like tend to him to keep his HP up. I no longer truly remember what it's like to be warm. Perhaps I have never truly been so. The memories seem so fragile. They spin away like dust, like snow. There's only ever been this. Cold that has not enough mercy to numb, a wind that howls like a pack of wolves on the hunt. Let's try conversing, maybe? I don't... Use the wool trousers. That will make me very comfortable. Use the wool shirts. Use the apples. Very good. I thought of Maman today. Her strength as she picked me up, her smile in the flickering lamplight. Tucked me in the bed, the brush of her lips against my temple. I wonder what she would do, tossed out in this stark and barren landscape. Start to walk in any direction her feet should lead. Would she find water and try to swim? There's a wild chance you should come to read this. Do not weep for your son. Think of me in Paris. Dapple late afternoon by the scene, smoking Galois, winking at pretty tourists. Think of me with love as I am thinking of you now in this endless Arctic night. Once more I sought to aid my master. So I simply sang to him. As many soft nursery songs as my mind could recall, it helped not at all. Day 38 and we were not moving. Nearly lost 3 toes to frostbite. I have not been careful enough. I was not conscientious enough. The medic caught it in time, and he will not lose them. Small victories, but I will take them, each and every one. been sleeping curled against each other since the disaster. I tried desperately to press some small warmth into his body. He is unconscious and then delirious. I am so afraid for him. The barriers of propriety are strong, buried nearly unto death, but I no longer dare spit lies in the face of death. He is my true friend, and more than a master. I would follow him into hell's very jaws, and indeed I have. Hell has no fire, hell is cold. If we survive, I will tear these pages out. I will burn them and burn these very thoughts from my mind. I will be satisfied only to see him raise his left eyebrow and comment upon the temperature of the tea. I think we're gonna die. We're not moving. We're not. There's a strange black streak across the horizon. I can hear others murmur. An airship, but I do not believe them. I cannot. Collective hallucination for people driven beyond hope, beyond reason, beyond bearing. I do not truly believe until I see Madame Jo standing on the deck. Need a ride? She shouts, her voice familiar and mocking. And I turn to Monster Fog and smile. We are saved. Oh my god. So, to say what happened then, the injured, Monster Fog included, were whisked away by the medics. We were wrapped in blankets with brisk efficiency and given steaming cups of broth. So with an older man, I closed myself. Ah, thank God. Stood with an old man in bruised samigakti and reindeer fur coat, silhouettes framed by observation windows. You saved us. I said thank you. The man made a disgusted sound. If Raja had done her duty correctly, you would not be here. Duty? What duty? I looked between them, feeling a deep sense of unease. I was supposed to make sure that the expedition did not make it to the North Pole. Madame Jo responded evenly, fingering a copper lily brooch. I adjusted the instruments to push us off course, but I had nothing to do with the wreck. Why would you betray the artificers? You look uncomfortable. I have other allegiances that come first to my people and family, all of which is mute, Jo, the man interjected, as you have failed resoundingly. Could not let them die out there, she replied, sounding uncharacteristically chastened. I applied that decision. Declared weakly as I cast a glare at the older man, and Madame Jo laughed desultorily. She said, "This is my father, Ivar Jo, semi-representative council of circumpolar northern peoples." Madame Jo looked out of the window and took a breath. We have arrived. Arrived where? I asked. She merely pointed. A city rose out of the pale mist and ice, an alchemical dream of glass, copper, and bone. Interconnected tints of reindeer skin. Here and there, impossibly lush tangles of trees and shrubs grew. What? Near the domes of glittering ice-rimed glass. Not believing my eyes. But the shimmering vision did not fade. The heart of the city, vast towering structure of steam boilers and copper pipes. Welcome to the North Pole, Madame Jo said, subdued, to the sacred city of Quatakuk. Oh my god. This, then, is the North Pole. It is a city of streets of carved ice. It is not the wasteland I had expected. Perhaps I should not write of it. Not desolate, not unexplored. The place is called Qualisitek. It's a popular mixture of Arctic peoples, many Sami but Siberian Nenets. Too many colors and creeds to count. Never before had I seen a place that disregarded the national so completely, as though here in the north the distinctions of longitude truly did not in fact exist. We disembarked in a hobbling procession led by Monsieur Jo. People watched us as we passed, suspicion of fear in their faces. Smiled and nodded assiduously, hoping to reassure. Soon enough, a few enterprising Nenet children slipped their parents' skirts and walked along us, chattering. It is not personal. Madame Jo put a hand on my elbow. You are the first outsiders to set foot here since the city's founding. Privileged, I answered. You mean you are thankful to be alive? Well, you are quite right, she said grimly. I had to beg my father to let you come. I heard the bitterness of old hurts. Father's an important man then, and I thought you disliked me. Don't, she replied tightly. I cannot laugh about it. Madame Juo's expression was unreadable. We will tend to the injured and let you rest. Tomorrow, most likely, you'll be called to the council. For judgment? I asked half jokingly. At least that was what I told myself. She only set her mouth thin-lined less silently to a low-roofed tent, with carved walrus tusk and polished antlers, no doubt hastily clear for arrival. No matter, at least we were alive. I climbed the bed heaped with furs and blankets, and after being chased from Monsieur Fogg's bedside, my sharp-tongued doctor sought on Madame Juo for more answers and for means of onwards transportation. There were no roads, no rails, no airship docks. This was a place happy to be disconnected, self-reliant. Food was grown in heated chambers, and waste was compacted and sunk through holes in the ice. Surely our long journey would not end here as citizens of a strange new place. I tried bribing a local, but found that they were reluctant to talk to me at all. It seemed a foreigner, especially a Frenchman, was as unsettling a sight as a three-headed cow. I turned my master into something of a black funk, but he only shivered and did not attempt to criticize me at all. The council met against the towering steam boilers in the heart of the city, both literal and figural. 15 men and women sat in simple chairs of sinew and fur, drawing their authority from the technological marvel which it commanded. The survivors of the expedition were gathered, and I saw familiar faces among them, chief engineer and pilot jostling Monsieur Mazinski and his plumber hunters, glaring and gaping in equal measure. I stood apart with Monsieur Fogg, who was rather irate that the doctors had taken his clothes and garbed him in Sammy fashion. I was no artificer and did not want to be taken as one. Monsieur Juo stood, and silence rippled out. He spoke a commanding sentence, and what was that, Turkish? Apparently conversant in the tongue. I said aloud, and Madame Juo elbowed me sharply. Pay attention, she hissed. Can you interpret for me? I hissed back. Turkish, really. Translating the counselor's words. Was founded for one purpose, for the circumpolar peoples to learn and develop the technologies of steam and oil and automata, to make them our own before they destroy our homes, our culture, our way of life. Technology brings change, not destruction, I muttered earnestly. We have seen what has happened to the Native Americans, to the First Peoples, to the Kazakhs and the Buryats. Madame Juo's face was still as carved as stone, and still clear she spoke her own words rather than the counselor's. We will not let that happen to us. The council erupted in argument, stealing whatever response I thought to give. What are they arguing about? I did not care about the politics. Asking managers to convey only what directly affected our fate. There was a sudden hubbub and a loud announcement. I heard some expeditioners gasp and tremulous smiles on a few faces. I allowed myself a moment of hope. What did the counselor say? I demanded. I'm sorry. What did they say? You will be our guests until the council is ready to announce itself to the world. I shook my head in despair. A set of guards began herding us back to our lodgings, and I threw myself on my pallet. This, it seemed, was to be the end of our great adventure. We're kidnapped at the North Pole. I woke in the simulator from my master shaking my shoulder. Monsieur Fogg, I exclaimed. He placed a finger to his lips, and as unspoken command, I quietly gathered up our bags and followed him in the ice-packed streets. We are not staying here, he told me, and then he pointed at a pair of dark airships to the west of the city. We have a wager to win, and that is our way out. Should we sneak aboard? I asked softly. We will remain hidden till we are away from Quasituk, and then adjust our plans to emergent circumstances. I said sagely. We'll improvise. Indeed, master. Quite so, he replied readily enough. Which airships should we aim for? I scrutinized them both. There was nothing to tell them apart. The one on the right, I guess. Felt immeasurably better for having made a decision, however arbitrary. Well then, let us depart. New routes discovered. Oh God, where are we going? Where's this? We're going to Canada. Oh my god, that is a big journey. Holy crap. Let's get out of here before they kidnap us. High winds and cold weather. This looks like a bothersome option, but the cold climate said should make my master more comfortable. Monster Fogg advised a simple plan to sneak aboard the airship. We wedged ourselves in a pair of supply crates, pulled our fur hoods down, and joined the massive crew as they scurried aboard. Once inside, I found us a warm, if cramped, hiding place near the boiler rooms. I breathed the sight of relief as we felt the airship loose its tethers and take to the skies, traveling once more. We were woken by a series of loud raps against the door of our hiding place. Please come out, a voice called. We know you're there. I attempted to mimic the noises of a groaning rivet joint, but remained silent. Perhaps this suggests this chamber was sealed for sound mechanical reasons, but the voice from outside merely became alarmed. Are you ill? It demanded. Don't worry, you're safe with us. Monster Fogg took matters in his own hands and opened the door. A middle-aged Nanette's woman stood at the head of the small troop of guards. I'm Captain Ain Venuto. The woman grinned, her dark eyes glinting. And you two are aboard my beautiful ship. She is a wondrous vessel indeed, I agreed, reasoning that all captains like to hear their airships praised even by stowaways. Isn't she? Captain Venuto sighed. She's the most aerodynamic ship we've ever built. The winds of her are quite remarkable, I agree, with a sickly smile. Captain stroked the bulkhead besottedly. Oh, you're really too kind, she murmured. I summoned all my courage. We're praise our destination. How much would you need to keep us aboard? How much would you pay to need us to keep us aboard? Monster raised an eyebrow, but for once he did not see the need to make our negotiations more civil. The captain cleared her throat. We are heading to Gastown in Canada. I see no need to alter our course, do you? Indeed not, Captain, I replied heartily, a grin spreading under my fine mustache. Well done, Captain, continued briefly. Let's get you a proper cabin and a good meal. It's roast seal tonight, and it cooks an absolute marvel with seal, Monster Fogg remarked. We have gained ourselves a day, Passport. We have crossed the date line. My master was, of course, correct. We had reached the point directly opposite Greenwich. Imagine what might have transpired had we forgotten. Where the hours had lost in traveling around the Earth were added back, a whole extra day. Whoa, we're speeding through this now. Holy crap. The captain brought out a bottle of Eckridge spirits our second night aboard and handed it around. I only pretended to take a sip to seem companionable and pass the bottle as quickly as I could. The crew seemed utterly stunned at my composure, having expected some sort of choking fit. I pretended to cough, hoping to cover over my error, and they cheered in response. So I asked the captain after the atmosphere was loosened a little by drink and camaraderie, why are you headed into Canada? We sell technology to the First Peoples in exchange for news and gossip, she replied easily. Council is cautious, but they understand the value of accurate information. We're not seeing Shadow Moses. Nope. We're skipping right past. Well, I don't know. Captain Steeple, it's better to cultivate allies now rather than pretend we can stay hidden forever, which is why I vote with the progressives. A brawl broke out between two of the aircrew and the captain excused her to go thump the perpetrators' heads together. Let's see, where's Alaska? Oh no, we're way past. Damn, we're almost to the US at this point. We're like right on the border. Where's Vancouver? Wouldn't Vancouver be like... Vancouver would be like right around here, I think. The outline of the Canadian coast loomed green and inviting through the observation windows. The frontier settlement of Gastown lit yellow and shrouded in steam vapor. We are here already, I exclaimed. One of the navigators preened. Our ships are the fastest in the air, he boasted, cracking his knuckles. Not that the rest of the world knows anything of it. We tethered smoothly, disembarked into sweet, blessed land. Good luck, Passport, Captain Venuto called in parting. Evening jacket. Smith & Wesson. Harmonica, Chicago, Omaha, and Winnipeg. $430. Englishman's wardrobe set. Alright, we can go to Calgary or we can go down to San Francisco. Gastown was subsequently named after Gassy Jack, a Yorkshire steamboat captain turned barkeep. It served as a drinking hole for loggers and fishermen from inland, as well as the sailors and crews of the ships drawn to the Bird Inlet for trade. Rough and steady sort of place, and uncouth and unappealing, just like its hedonistic inhabitants. The one luxury in town was its distributed steam heating system. Steam hissed away warmly through the great town's pavements, and even powered a steam clock, which whistled the time to the town's citizens every hour. A strange symbol of society's progress, but one that was no doubt potent as a newly built depot for the Canadian Pacific Railway parallel to Water Street. Gastown was, for better or worse, a truly modern town. Alright. Let's see. I'd like for us to go down to San Francisco, oh man, Las Vegas to Albuquerque to Dallas, Atlanta. Although if we go straight to Winnipeg, that'd be a quicker trip. Next Saturday, arrives Monday, 190. I guess we can go to San Francisco. The Gyrocopter departs for San Francisco tomorrow at noon. Let's see. So how would I plan that? Negative 25. How do I get his health back up? If we stay at the hotel, will it go up? Oh, it does go up, okay. Before retiring, I afforded my master every service, ran a few errands for the hotelier, went to stretch my legs. There we go. Providing him with clipped mustache with the hopes that he would have a comfortable night. Alright. Let's go to San Francisco. Yeah. Rough skies and cold weather. Wearisome option. We took passage with one Monsieur Williamson, a dark-haired, keen-eyed fellow with a magnificent leather coat and, more relevantly to our requirements, a well-used gyrocopter. Do you make this journey often? I inquired. Every month, he told me, jovially enough. The city folk in San Francisco can't get enough furs. I visit regularly to ply my trade. I could not see any space for cargo, and wondered whether he was in fact a smuggler, repeated my observation to him. He laughed. Usually the furs are piled high where you and your master sit, but, his voice roughened, I have had a bad season. Sorry to hear that. Ah, well, he grimaced. Sometimes luck goes against you. That is the way of the world. Indeed so. I agreed, thinking of the various disasters and hair's breadth escapes we ourselves had experienced on our journey. Once the rhythm chuckled, we began our journey down the Canadian coastline, companionably enough, ceasing our conversation only when the sound of the garbage blades against the wind muffled our voices. Going down the Pacific coastline. First day, we flew down the endless forested coast, and it seemed as though we traveled across a different planet, both than the one I knew from my birth and that we just left. It is a wilderness, I exclaimed. That it is, Monsieur Williamson agreed. though I saw my master politely look askance, which I took to mean that he disagreed, though I could hardly see how that was possible. Night fell and the stars came out, but I do not find them as beautiful as once I did, having seen little else during our time in the Arctic. Man, it's been quite a freaking journey so far, man, in this game. This is pretty awesome. We saw the smoke and steam of San Francisco before we saw the city. The great iron line of the Cross-Continental Railway snaked east over the horizon, an enterprise almost too vast to contemplate. Looks like what is the city like? He wiped some soot from his goggles and grinned. San Francisco is a place where a man may make his mark, where he has no history but what he creates for himself. And then you would be one of these new men? I said shrewdly, shorn of history, ready to make your mark. Mr. Williamson sighed heavily. My mother has a passion for history. She fought for better treatment of the First Nations tribes, thought that we Canadians were destroying their lands, their heritage. She even had a child with a Musqueam tribeman. He indicated his own person with a flourish. Do you regret your circumstance? Do you think your passion foolish? He shook his head. What did it serve them? My mother is a laughing stock amongst her peers, and my father's people dwindled to nothingness. He looked away. Their history is a burden that I do not wish to carry. I understand, I told him, shrugged. Wish you luck in whatever you choose to be. Monsieur Williamson shot me a grateful look and shook my hand with great care after we landed in San Francisco's aeroport. Good luck to you too, Passepartout. He told me fervently. Perhaps you will find yourself a new hero also. The traveling cloak should be quite valuable here. Wax cylinder. Dusty road set. Cold climate. I don't think we'll be in the cold climate anymore. If I'm going to Dallas, I can sell the harmonica and the Smith & Wesson. Dusty road set. San Francisco seemed less a city and more a ravenous beast bent on consumption of everything, even of itself. Within the ever-expanding city limits, enormous steam-powered drills and diggers flattened hills. The building works made it tricky to talk to anyone. Such was the infernal constant noise. I headed towards Chinatown to eat. It was a warren of crowded wooden and brick houses, temples, businesses, herbalists, laundries, and market stalls selling fruit and flowers. Brightly colored lanterns illuminated streets. People with some interest. I was interested. Conversation, so I decided to approach a young man with a Q ponytail, an older man in European clothes, who offered me a cup of green tea when I introduced myself. You were very well dressed, I remarked reprovingly. Most excellently cut jacket. Chuckle and smooth as crisper. Many of my friends, they say, Lynn, talk to foreigners, you wear their clothes, and I say to them, I'm American now. You are too. Pointing a young man with his hair in a queue. Look at him with his old-fashioned hair. There's a law against it here, but he wears it like that, the fool. What a ridiculous law. But that is your tradition. Why is there a law against it? I asked. It hurts no one, surely. We must let go of our old culture, Lin counseled. We are American now. But you are Chinese American. I disagree. Why should you give up everything for the American dream? Alright. Oh, dang, oh, dang, that goes way down. I sloped towards the recently constructed long bridge, which was crowded with families out for a stroll and people fishing for silvery smelt with long poles. In the water was a jingle of rowing boats racing each other and boatmen taking passengers out to Mission Rock. Cheers and good-natured shouts emitted from a halfway house in the middle of the bridge. Scoured the water for boats we might take, but there seemed to be none heading out. All were fishing. Man, red-faced and somewhat worse for a drink, bumped into me. And he made an apology and returned, slinging an arm around my shoulders. Oh, hello. He exclaimed, you don't sound like you're from around here. Gave him a freezing look. You do not sound American either, I retorted. No matter, I was Dutch once in a past life. But now I am as American as President Grant. This is a land of newcomers. You're a prospector? I am a traveler. I said, I'm traveling around the world. Oh yeah, and I'm a Navajo chief. I insisted on the truth. Sketchy on brief some of my adventures with my master. What, really? His eyes widened and he slapped his thigh. That's incredible. Brown-skinned woman slipped her arm into his. I looked for an introduction and the man smiled quickly. Ah, my manners. He shook his ruddy face. I am Anders, and this is my wife, Jenny. Pleasure to meet you. Kissed her hand. She was surprised, but smiled. Always a pleasure to meet Anders' friends. She looks askance at the whiskey flask in his hands. Seemed to find me unobjectionable. I hesitated the obvious question about her origins on the tip of my tongue. Are you... I let my rather uncouth question trail off in embarrassment. She laughed with full-throated pleasure. I am of the Modoc tribe, what the new Americans called Indians. Jenny rolled her eyes. I do not mind your surprise. Most of my tribe has been taken to the Klamath Reservation in Oregon. But you are not with them, I observed, realizing my thought passes the words somewhat from my unthinking lips. Jenny sucked in a deep breath. I left my tribe, she whispered. Anders squeezed her hand. Fell in love. In this world, women leave their families for their husbands. I made a home of my choosing, which is more freedom than my tribe can claim. Anders whispered something into Jenny's ears. She laughed, though I feared I'd opened an old wound with my prying questions. Not when I found my way back to Monsieur Fogg, who was sitting drinking tea with a disconsolate frown. It tastes like soap, he remarked, but would say no more. Even in the video game, British people have to trash American tea. Let's see, Salt Lake City, Utah, Cheyenne, Wyoming, Omaha, Nebraska. I want to go down to Dallas. If I go to Salt Lake City. Bearable option. Let's go to Salt Lake City. We were lucky to arrive in San Francisco just in time to catch the inaugural journey of the Transcontinental Express, which would take us to New York in 8 days, with only a handful of stops along the way. The first day aboard was enjoyable enough. American trains could clearly not compete with their European counterparts, but it was amusing to see them try. Posters proclaimed Pullman's Palace sleeping cars, but they were more like places to keep cattle. If reasonably well-to-do cattle. We sipped cool beer as we rattled through a long stretch of desert in the shadow of tall mountains. I attended to Monsieur Fogg and his delicate stomach, which was not entirely better today. We were firmly back in our adventure once more, but I confess to feeling more glad to be alive than anything else. The pole had been a bleak place, and I'm quite sure another, only slightly different Fogg and Passport might have lost their lives there. Yeah, that ain't no crap. We almost died. His HP was like, what, 30 at one point? 20? Our fellow passengers were a curious mix of gold and silver prospectors, homesteaders, farmers from all corners of the world. Mormons, missionaries, soldiers, stiff-necked gentry of various sorts. I gave a young black woman with a deep red bonnet and an infectious laugh a nod of greeting. Her name was Diana. I am meeting my husband in Cheyenne. She told me he did construction work in New York, but New York isn't safe anymore. We have enough money to move now. Why isn't it safe? I queried innocently, having only the broad strokes of American news and history. You don't hear of the draft rights in Europe? She asked wonderingly. New York has always had Confederate sympathies, and when the Union began drafting New Yorkers, they rioted. They killed and burned black homes. My husband has never felt safe since, but now we're moving to Cheyenne. She smiled, nearly glowing with happiness. I told her some of the tales of my adventures, which seemed to amuse her greatly. As the afternoon wore into evening, and we arrived into the station town of Ogden, close to Salt Lake City. let's... I guess we don't really need this anymore. Dusty Road. Oh, the harmonica is valuable here. Okay. Dallas and New Orleans, valuable in Washington. Dusty Road set. I'll grab that. Okay. As I sat in the downstairs room of our hotel looking out across the plains, sitting on a glass of wine and a cup of coffee, enjoying the moment of silence, peaceful town, I was approached by a young lady with a wry smile. May I join you? By all means, I answered. She smiled and slid into the seat opposite. I heard you're a traveler. I heard that you're going around the world. That is correct. The whole world? That's so exciting, she said. The San Francisco Chronicle did a full profile on you both. You're international news. I don't feel like international news. That may seem my master's experience of our favor somewhat. I confided. She smiled. You sound tired of your adventure. More anxious than tired. I replied, we are nearing our journey's end. You're barely halfway around the Earth, the girl replied. Is there not still the great Atlantic to cross? We will travel in an airship, I should think, I told her. Airships can cross the ocean in just a couple of days. Less time than it takes to train across America. Shook her head, delighted. In the last 30 years, we have irrigated this valley plain across, building half of our temple, she said. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is building a ton out of entire countries. I cannot understand it. And do you wish to travel? She fell silent for a moment. I realized I had reached the heart of the matter. With all my heart, she said, but what my family are doing here and what they're building, it is too important. It needs every hand and every heart to make it fly. But if all else were different, then why I would hang onto your coattails like a shot, Monster, and ask you to show me the shores of Europe. When you are old, such a trip will be a matter of a short holiday. I assured her, in 50 years' time, a journey like mine will seem quaint. She sighed. I'm already too old for fairy stories, she replied. But perhaps you will be proved right. Perhaps one day people like me will travel all over the world, spreading our good word. Evening was wearing on. The young lady rose and bid me farewell and bon voyage. I watched her go, feeling suddenly curiously old. In 100 years, I wonder what would curious historians make of our adventures. Very little, I supposed. Come on, come on. I can go to Albuquerque, at least. The train stopped at Ogden, but this trip to Salt Lake City was a brief jaunt along a branch road. Land around was well cultivated with large ranches and wide fields of wheat and corn bordered by hedges of wild rose and clumps of acacias. For a Mormon colony, I was surprised by the lack of churches. It seemed like one temple was enough to suffice their needs of community. Certainly, the town did not seem densely populated. I knew little of the Mormon faith, but was naturally intrigued by their Great Salt Lake itself. So I took myself to its banks encrusted with white salt. They are like Dover's white cliffs in miniature. Lakeshore was utterly deserted, and for a moment I could have walked across the surface of the moon in short order. I found the place oppressive in scale. This country, to the European eye, was simply too big. I returned to the cafe where Fogg waited post-haste. Looked quite resolved. We must once again make a demand upon the bank, I fear, he declared. I regarded the bank as we entered. As big as any London branch, they would no doubt serve us well. Make a withdrawal, the manager said. You may have to wait a day or two. £3,000 by Tuesday. 1,000 pounds tomorrow. We require 1,000 pounds. We'll need to talk to the London branch to confirm you understand. Return to the bank tomorrow to collect your funds. Alright. We took a room, settled in, and I starched the colors of our shirts, helped the kitchen staff to clean, spent a few hours walking around. But found nothing of particular interest. Tapping the clock. We collected our funds from the bank, and the manager wished us well. Okay. Let's get on out of here. Let's go to Albuquerque. Rail cart departs for Albuquerque tomorrow at 11. Ah. What about Cheyenne? Can we go to Cheyenne right now? A bearable journey. Alright. Let's just keep going east. We boarded the Transcontinental Express at Salt Lake City for the long journey eastward across the continent. Top hat's from Dallas. Now anyway, I suppose you don't know who my father is. Top. Is there a route from Cheyenne to Washington? Here's through Dallas. Okay. New routes discovered. Man, what a freaking journey. God. I basically cut the world in half by going through the North Pole. We almost freaking died. But we made it. Today a fellow with a painfully trimmed mustache and impeccable suit approached me outside the lavatory. I made way so he could pass by, but standing hand to me, "I'm Felix Granger," he said. "You are a puzzle." I was flattered, Monsieur Moët. Humble passport, I am no more puzzled than the sun's rise in the east. Surely I'm the simplest of men. Oh no, do tell me how you came to be on the Transcontinental. Thereby hangs the tale, I can tell, good sir. It seemed a probing question, which made me immediately suspicious of his motives. I made some non-committal answer, but he pressed me further. Finally, I excused myself with some fabricated errand. What a strange, ill-mannered fellow. We stopped at Cheyenne, Wyoming for a few hours in the evening. The trim mustache fellow disembarked to talk with a 6-foot-tall woman who wore the latest slim train skirts and a pistol tucked into her waistband. We disembarked also. Bid farewell to our fellow passengers. We should explore a little. Dusty roads and uncomfortable conditions. This prompts me to wear some option, but the gentleman traveler. Yes, we can go to Dallas. Our arrival in Cheyenne, Magic City of the Plains, was met to our surprise by a small parade, which we rather enjoyed but did not investigate too deeply, preferring to find onward travel as soon as possible. The town was otherwise rather small and uncomfortable. Charming saloon, playing curious card game involving colored sets and runs, which I rather failed to understand, but which the locals took terribly seriously. Called poker, appeared to be a game about lying, bluffing, and eliciting sympathy, whilst encouraging the other players to drink more heavily than oneself. No better than average, and lost a small sum before retiring from the game. Alright, we gotta go to Dallas. We're gonna take. Oh, no charge. Most generous. No charge in 2 days. Nice. Okay. Free of charge. To Dallas. But I gotta speed the time up, I think. The last light of evening, I polished our shoes and hat brims to ensure everything was in place for our inevitable departure. So it's one more day, right? Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Departs tomorrow. One more day. As night fell, I buffed and shone my master's pocket watch. Polishing shoes. Your funds have gone up by a fair amount. Spent a few hours polishing shoes in the lobby, earning 105 pounds. Oh, okay. Now we can go to Dallas. Houston and Texas Railroad to Dallas. Despite Cheyenne being a small place, a few thousand souls, it was still well connected by rail, with the Houston and Texas Railroad Company proudly advertising the fastest ride to the glorious South, which I took to be a good omen for our onward journey. It took a while for everyone to board, and then the train issued a loud whistle, and with a whoop from the guard, we were away down the tracks. And from Dallas, I wonder if I can go from Dallas to Washington. At least Dallas to Atlanta. Dallas to New Orleans, maybe? New Orleans to Miami. Oh, top hats around. Now listen, what do you make of the States then? Ambitious. You've got it. Ambition is what we have, both hearts and spades. New Orleans. New Orleans to... And this is going to send me down to Cuba and stuff. Nassau. I do not want to go that way. I passed the time aboard the train, eavesdropping, trying to find options for our next leg, and discovered from a charming San Franciscan clerk that the Haitians in Panama City have some of the fastest aircraft in the world. These strange ships have feathers. In the evening, we pulled into Dallas Station, a grander affair than Cheyenne's own minor station. Made it to Dallas. Let's see. We can sell this. Railway man set. Storm rider, train guards, and enthusiasts, leather braces. Railway man set. Urban traveler. Attached to the inside of a pocket by glass. Unstealable wallet. Urban traveler. Dusty road. Gentleman traveler set complete. Rest and recuperation. Guess we can go from New Orleans to Atlanta to Washington and then New York. Instead of going down through here. I saw a strange sight on the streets of Dallas, a group of white ghosts drifting around the corner of a building, one carrying a torch of flame. Uh-oh. I looked away quickly, not wanting to understand. This city has a curse on it, and I wanted nothing but to leave as soon as we could. There was an air of nervous tension in the city, which I did my best to ignore, reasoning that as a traveler was nothing I need to become embroiled in, but still I could sense there was a deep rage left by the Civil War, the years of slave owning that had preceded it, and all lay a skin's thickness below the tension of things, surface of things. Heading to Freedmanstown, as with all America, the cities are small. Eastern edge, and though now the passers-by met my eye, I felt no. It was mostly to stare me down. Most likely they were trying to place my face. Stopping at a low saloon, I ordered a beer and took a seat at the bar. You, sir, are lost, bartender assured me. Where are you meant to be? I'm going around the world, I declared, and he burst out into laughter. Are you really? And you stop in my bar? Well now, I always knew I was destined for greatness. The bar was otherwise empty. I drank my beer slowly, enjoying the refreshing cool of it. This is your place? As of about 4 years. Yes, I got big plans, but right now I mostly sell beer to laborers. There's a rush in the morning, another in the evening, and in mid-time. I polish the glasses. What kind of plans? Oh well, he smiled. If you ask me, the future is in music. After a day's work, people want to come and drink, but they don't want to talk. They're too tired, and things they might talk about are all too sad. So what they want is music, something to cheer them up. An excellent idea. He nodded. Well, that's my thinking anyway. My beer came to an end, and the man offered me another. But I had my master to turn to. So I thanked him and took my leave. Three days at 9 in the morning. I guess we'll go to Houston. I missed it. Missed it. Damn it. No charge tomorrow. Ooh. Okay. Departs tomorrow. Nice. Before going to bed, I buffed and helped the kitchen staff to clean. Helped the kitchen staff to clean, earning 107 pounds. Depart. Let's go to New Orleans. New Orleans! We boarded the Texas and Pacific Railway, a decent stretch of railroad by all accounts, which joined West Coast to the south. It lacked the speed of an airship, but at least it was reasonably comfortable. Yep, I made it to Dallas, spent a few nights. Now we're going to New Orleans. Hopefully I can go New Orleans to Atlanta, up to Washington and New York. And then from there should be a straight shot over to London. This stretch of track was unremarkable. I passed the time eavesdropping, hoping to find options for our next leg. And I picked up nervous Irish soldier that the paddle steamers on the Mississippi River are mostly death traps. We entered the heavily surroundings of New Orleans. Burlington. Soothing an unquiet nerve. Chicago, Houston, and Atlanta. Trombone. Worth 2,400 in New York. New York is where I want to go. Extra suitcase. I already have the railway cap, don't I? No. Railway means... Still have another 20 days. Yeah. I met Death in a smoke-wreathed red-lit bar in New Orleans as the jazz band struck up another tune. He offered to buy me a bourbon. Threw my drink in his face. I replied archly as some of the other patrons snickered. Death pulled off his mask to reveal handsome cafe features and dark green eyes, then extended a skeletal hand to me. A fine costume, I remarked. Merci, monsieur. A man of death at our neighborhood in Mardi Gras, and I was practicing my role. He took my proffered hand and brought back lips for a gallant kiss. He flicked me a rather unmistakable look under his dark lashes. To be so clearly desired by Death was unnerving. I found my feet shaking a step back. He tilted his head to hide. Do you find my color displeasing? Yes, with a lazy smile. Not that. He laughed low and pleasing. It matters little, monsieur. There are many white men in New Orleans who do. In spite of it, I am a free man. Death resumed his mask. I do not believe in prophecy, but the chill of his cold fingers on my face sent a thrill of fear through me. Abandoning dignity, I ran from the bar, nerves rattling like a knuckle bones in a cup. Day 60. Monsieur Frog murmured that night in his sleep, and still some distance yet to travel. You can manage another case, can't you? Explore. Come on, Atlanta. Yes! Oh! 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 We can go straight to New York. Discovering possibilities how we can might make progress. Oh, yes! We can go straight from New Orleans all the way to New York. Negotiate. No charge at 2 p.m. today. Oh, nice! Departure tomorrow at 2 p.m. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Okay. We passed an anxious night with our 80-day deadline looming. Every sunset seemed to carry extra weight. We made ourselves comfortable in the night, and I starched the colors of our shirts to ensure everything was shipshape for inevitable departure. And now we can go to New York. From New Orleans to New York. Piedmont Airline from New Orleans was not in fact an airline at all, but according to its advertising, the fastest railway in America. Hardly a bold claim, considering there were only 2 truly significant lines in the continent, but nonetheless it gave my master some satisfaction when he saw the slogan on the wall of the compartment. We settled ourselves in a carriage with one other occupant, an extremely large man who introduced himself as Charlie Sullivan, a lad from Birmingham, who had grown into something the size of a warehouse building, who was most impressively sculpted, especially around the neck and upper arms. I asked him what had taken him to New Orleans. I asked him where he was going, and he replied, New York. I was boxing. I'm going home. You fought in a competition? I interpreted. There was an exhibition, he said. I won. 3rd round knockout. However, Monsieur Fogg's interest had increased sharply throughout the conversation. You are trained, he demanded keenly, or self-taught? I've got a manager, Sullivan replied. He tells me what to hit. Excellent, enthused. I want to hear all about it. I sat back and enjoyed the conversation. The details of boxing are more intricate than one might expect. In hearing the business of cut and thrust, delivered in Sullivan's so very English tones, was quite informative. Little did I know how the details I heard would come to be used to me. So we're riding the train from New Orleans to New York with a boxer. Man, what a journey I've gone on since we left London. It has been very exciting. That Mr. Sullivan will, I think, go very far indeed, Master Fogg opined as I brought him kippers from the dining car. You seem to have the physique I suggested. Not just the physique, my master replied. Physique is not the secret. His description of transfer of weight from foot to foot was very well understood indeed. So you are a boxer, monsieur. I saw the shutters of conversation meeting come down. I went to school, yes. Boxing school? Like to me, I think France a very curious country at times. He attacked his kippers with some gusto. You should fight him, he said. I almost choked. I laughed at my master's joke. I backed away slowly. He looked at me with surprise. Is something the matter? Forgive me, it sounded as though you said I should fight Monsieur Sullivan. It seems you wish me dead, monsieur. My master shook his head in the minutest fraction. Not at all, merely exercised. He forked another forkful. You didn't need an alarm. I can teach you to box. Perhaps you should fight him yourself. He looked almost uncomfortable at the suggestion. I think, no, Passport. It is a young man's game. I would very much like to live to be an old man. I rolled back my sleeves. I'm sure you can, Monsieur. I played, and I am a quick learner. There's never been true, but I saw no other choice. Excellent. Monsieur Fogg put down his paper. I have arranged for a space in the guard's van. Come. When had he done this? I don't know. I merely followed Neighbor Sullivan, stripped to the waist, doing his warm-up exercises. Piss pour two. He greeted me through a thick leather mouthguard. I all but burst into tears. Sullivan, I declared, immediately, as I removed my own shirt and tried to listen as my master provided pointers. And then the fight began. Sullivan was a tough opponent, and if he chose to swing hard, he would brain me unless I defended myself. But he would not be able to slug on every swing. I would have to pick my moments to attack. To begin, I jabbed, a quick, decisive move, but I had timed it poorly. Sullivan punched hard, the blow slipping past my guard. A small crowd had gathered to watch the fight, and they murmured with excitement. Strength and stamina are different, Master Fogg called to me from the side. Your strength will come back if you swing lightly, but your stamina once gone will leave you out cold. Not a show I had heard. Sullivan's eyes narrowed. I brought my defenses up, matching Fogg's demonstration from across the car just as Sullivan made a quick jab. The blow landed against my defense. I shook it off as best I could. I was fading fast. I could not take much more. Watch it. The next swing may be harder, my master called. Next, I threw a heavy punch, putting all my weight behind the blow, while Sullivan lifted his defenses. I knocked him back a little. I was stumbling and staggering. He will have regained some muster from that block, my master shouted, so be warned. Then I jabbed a quick, decisive move, but Sullivan punched hard, the blow slipping past my guard. He was tiring, certainly, but I was all but on my knees. I heard rather than saw the money exchanging hands. Spectators were betting on me. I saw Sullivan's shoulders move back. He's making to block. Bummer, so don't swing too hard. I got ready to duck and dodge. Threw a light punch, a quick, decisive move. Someone snapped up his arms to block. I pushed him a little. I could not take much more of this. One more hit would most likely finish me off. Sullivan rolled his fists about one another. I threw a heavy punch. I don't know. Putting all my weight behind the blow, just as Sullivan swung low, I overpowered him, knocking him back across the carriage. An excellent hit, Master Fogg declared. A little blood leaked from his lip. We were both staggering and stumbling about the ring, but he had the upper hand by a hair's breadth. He's wearing himself out, my master cried. Sullivan's weight moved back. He's making the swing, my master shouted. I no longer had the energy for a heavy swing. I brought my defenses up, once more protecting my face while Sullivan punched hard. I caught the punch neatly. This could not last much longer. We were both on our last reserves. The crowd murmured and whispered. I saw his arms tense. Next, I jabbed a quick move, brought his block. I knocked his strength back a bit. We were both staggering and stumbling about the ring, but it seemed he had the advantage. He lifted back his shoulders. I guess throw another heavy punch? I don't know. Threw another heavy punch, putting all my weight behind the blow. Just as Sullivan put up his defense, I knocked him back a little. Sullivan span about and fell backwards onto the floor of the van. Defeated. Generous hands scooped me up in the air. Excellent show. Monsieur Fogg beamed, displaying a violent burst of character. Most impressive. Sullivan was rubbing the side of his head and cursing in a version of English I did not recognize. I shook his hand as he was carried to a compartment to lie down. I believe this makes you lightweight champion of North America, Monsieur Fogg remarked to me. More to the point, we won a little from a wager or two. 2,000 pounds, in fact. Your character is now presentable. We won 2,000 pounds. Yay. I awoke still smarting from my boxing match with Sullivan, and my master most generously decided he would fetch breakfast. You are most kind, monsieur. Indeed, he replied, we cannot have you dropping the tray. Turn with black coffee and well-buttered toast. A most considerate choice to bring a Frenchman. Or at least I thought until he began to eat the toast himself and drank the coffee in a slurp. We arrived in New York later that day, struggled to lift the cases with my tired arms, and we staggered off the train. Boom, we made it. We made it to New York. Sell the trombone here. We could sell the Smith & Wesson here. Oh, that's their market. I don't know. Lisbon. Tiny stamp with a misprint on the Queen's imperious nose, a rarity. Lisbon. I'll buy the apples. Okay, now that we're in New York, all we gotta do is cross the Atlantic Ocean now. But I gotta find other routes from New York. Amount of pounds easily. Hey, just go into a boxing match in a train cart. You'll get 2,000 pounds. Easy peasy. New routes discovered. Okay, that's up north of me. Okay, from New York I can go to London. I was pickpocketed in New York. I trusted to my unstealable wallet. Waited, intending to pounce upon the... I trusted to my unstealable wallet to keep me safe. It worked charmingly, bringing the thief a cropper just as they were running away. The yank of the elastic sudden and severe enough to lay them flat. I went over to crow victory. I snatched back my purse, marched triumphantly away until once around the corner I collapsed with a deep sigh of relief. A valet who loses his wallet is no valet at all. The shock passed, and I made my way back to our hotel before anything more untoward could befall my delicate person. I knew getting that wallet was a good idea. I knew getting that wallet was a good idea. Alright, so I can go straight to London. The Henrietta departs for London tomorrow at 3 p.m. $3,000 miles away. And it's five grand. I just happen to have the money. Another night and the clock was forever ticking upwards. With what remained of the day, there's some minor alterations to our clothing. Preparations for our upcoming departure. Let's go to London. Can we go up to where CS lives? Ah. No love for Scotland and Ireland, or well, we can go to Wales, right? Snowdon is Wales, right? There's the Isle of Man. No love for Ireland, no love for Scotland. Only Cambridge and London. Embark. The luggage rack has space for 1 suitcase, but we have to hire extra space. Rough skies, this will be a wearisome journey. Negative 34. We left New York aboard the Henrietta, an old Confederate airship converted to a transatlantic mail carrier. We would reach London in 3 days, barring any unexpected delay. Oh god, we're gonna crash into like freaking Greenland or something, aren't we? The ocean tore along beneath us. I enjoyed talking to no one. There was nothing I needed to know, no one to charm, flatter, or beguile into giving us aid. There was only the wind and the time. And we could control neither. Passport, my master demanded. Make us go faster if you would. I ignored his advice. What was the use? We were home and dry already. Hey, what's the deal, man? We're home free. Monsieur Fogg looked out the observation deck windows with perfect calm, and there was no reason to be concerned. We were safely within our 80-day window. I could not wait to stride into the Reform Club and claim our prize. I spent the remaining time watching every possible danger. Watching every possible danger, one eye on the crew, the other on the ship, ready to react to the slightest trouble, but nothing broke the peacefulness of our day. We tethered at the airship dock in Hyde Park and felt for the first time in 66 days the feel of English soil under our shoes. At long last, we'd returned to London and in good time to win the wager. "66 days around the world." We even took a pit stop to Dallas. We did it. I mean, technically, we didn't even go really around the world. We just kind of... Look at that. We didn't even really go around. We just kind of like took a shortcut. We went from London to Moscow and then went straight into North Pole and then straight down to we didn't go like anywhere near this side of the planet at all. We skipped like a whole side of the planet. That's hilarious. Does that, I mean, would that even count that we went around the world? I guess it would. I seized my master by the collar and threw him into one of the steam carriages idling on the banks of the Serpentine in Hyde Park. "To the Reform Club," I shouted, telling the driver we were on urgent business for Her Majesty, before ejecting the driver from his seat and taking the wheel myself in this journey and rid myself of the memory of the Arctic. Jesus Christ, what? What are these options? "Drive as though the fate of the British Empire depends upon you, sir," I exhorted. "Drive. There's no need for such unseemly haste," my master noted, but I was a man possessed. The streets of London seemed quaint and old-fashioned as they flashed past my well-traveled eyes. The carriages were mostly horse-drawn, and gas lamps rather than electricity lit our way as we raced down Pall Mall. The carriage barely shuddered to a steam hissing stop before I dragged my master from his seat and up the steps to the imposing doors of the Reform Club. I released him only when we reached the great saloon where my master's erstwhile friends stood from their chairs, gaping in an attitude of great shock. Monsieur Fogg only straightened a little and said in his calm voice, "Gentlemen, here I am." The room erupted into cheers. Where did the crowd come from? And I staggered to the nearest chair and collapsed heavily into it, my hands shaking. I realized, as though a spell had suddenly broke, that we had succeeded. And despite a most unconventional route, my master had won £20,000. With the 4,000 we began with, the debt built up from banks along the way, and our remaining funds, it was a profit of over 15,000. Hardly a meager sum. My heart began to beat again, and I saw for the first time the crowds who had forced their way into the club to witness the momentous occasion. A journalist in dark blue bonnet caught my eye. "And you must be the loyal valet, Passepartout," she said. "How can you possibly know that?" "Ah, madame, you have a sharp eye, for indeed I am." I bowed with a flourish. All of London has been feverishly following Phileas Fogg's progress in the papers. She swept her gaze over me and scribbled furiously in her notebook, "Your master will be tomorrow's headline, or I'll eat my hat." "I am quite overwhelmed," I admitted. "I am not surprised," she agreed. "You should sit down." I pushed my way through Monsieur Fogg, who had nearly been swallowed by congratulatory crowds. "You have won the bet," Monsieur told him, and seized my master by the hand and shook it, as though saying it aloud once more would make it more real. Seized my master by the hand and shook it, as though we were the two equals and not merely a master and a servant. Monsieur Fogg pressed my hand warmly and did not remark even once upon the impropriety of my gesture. Indeed, though his cool gaze did not so much waver as soften, I believe he welcomed the chance to shake my hand. "Any gentleman would be fortunate to call you his valet, and you have been a worthy companion to me besides," Monsieur Fogg said, and I knew that from him there could be no higher praise. "Mr. Fogg," the blue-bonneted journalist cried, interrupting our conversation, "what next for the great adventurer Phileas Fogg and his loyal valet, Passepartout?" My master looked at me. I laughed like a maniac. "Perhaps we should do it again," I declared, "but this time going the long way." I looked around at the faces of the assembled crowd and quirked an eyebrow. "Anyone care to make a wager?" Monsieur Fogg refrained from rolling his eyes. "I believe," he said with great deliberation, "that tonight I will have supper and go to bed. Come, Passepartout, it grows late." "Yes, Mr. Fogg," I said, and I followed. Celebrated Englishman Phileas Fogg wins round-the-world wager. Journey complete in 66 days despite the sheer size of the world and near-fatal polar expedition. Dude almost died, man. Oh, and then you just begin again? I'm not going through the freaking North Pole again next time I play this, I tell you that. I think going down through here, through India, go through India and Asia, and then through Japan.